Well, today on Big Blend Radio's Vacation Station Parks and Travel Show, we're going to hear all about spring and early summer in Tulare-County, which is Central California. It's east of Fresno. It's about 4 to 5 hours from San Francisco Bay Area, about 3 to 4 hours from Los Angeles, and it's a must-visit destination. It's home to Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks, the giant Sequoia-National-monument, and Sequoia-National-Forest, and the region is just one of those awesome vacation destinations no matter what time of year. All kinds of outdoor activities from rock climbing and hiking to stargazing, bird watching. There's all kinds of festivals in the local communities, a lot of ranger programs to go check out too in the parks and forests. And there's lots of shopping and dining. Lots of shopping out there too. So if you go to discoverthesequoias.com, you'll be able to connect to all the communities and all the parks and forests, and also go to nationalparktraveling.com because we cover the area quite a bit as well. We have 3 special guests joining us today. We have Cynthia Kawasaki-Yee. She's a public affairs officer of Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks. Welcome to the show, Cynthia. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
We're excited. We know exactly where you're sitting, and you have woodpeckers that hang out right outside your window. I know that, right?
That's right.
And blue jays. I remember the blue jays. And and you're near, you're towards the entrance of Sequoia National Park. You come in through the gate, through 3 rivers, go up, and so you're near Hospital Rock, not too far from there, right?
Cool.
Nope. You know, we never stopped at Hospital Rock. So what were we missing at Hospital Rock? Apparently some history.
Yeah, we have some nice history there, some archaeological sites that are there, some paintings on the rock. So it's a really great picnic area to stop by on your way up into the trees. And it's also a great place to stop in the summer when we have road construction delays, where you can kind of kill some time and hang out and not wait in your car in line to go up. Instead, you can wait for the pass-through there and really enjoy the area.
Very cool. So we missed out, Nancy. You know, that you get into that mode of we've got to get to the trees, the big trees. You got to go up that mountain.
There's always a reason to go back.
Always a reason. I want to give out your website. Everyone, nps.gov/SEKI is the website to go to also for road openings, because now Sequoia National Park, we are going to chat with Denise as well from the forest area as well, but it's all kind of interwoven, like the National Forest and also the giant Sequoia National Monument, but it's all connected through the General's Highway, right? When you come in from Sequoia, that will take you to Kings Canyon.
That's right. And if you blink, you could be in a forest or you can be in a park. You just don't know.
I know. I don't know who I am. So, it gets confusing for me. So both parks are connected through there. But Kings Canyon, typically Sequoia's open, but Kings Canyon is when you close off part of the area because of snow, right?
So part of the park, Cedar Grove specifically, is closed in the winter. It closes, I think it's closed later in the fall, and then it opens back up around May 11th.
Okay. Mother's Day.
So that's when the Lodge Market and Grill are expected to open. The actual road is supposed to open the 4th Friday in April, so you can access Cedar Grove. But the other areas of Kings Canyon are open in the winter. So Grant Grove is always open, and there is a road closure between the parks from Sequoia to Kings Canyon, and that road is typically closed from January 2nd to March 16th, but that's when snow is on the ground. So this year, I think it's been open more than it's been closed, just because we unfortunately haven't been getting a lot of snow.
Well, you got it the year before. But yeah, we did have weird weather going on. Same here out in Tucson, and we're right outside Saguaro National Park. And, we're like, where's our winter rain? And then all of a sudden it came and it got really cold, and then it's going to go away. I don't know, but we need moisture in the West. I just want to say that. I want to put that out there for the moisture gods, so please bring them out. But again, for the roads opening, when they're going to open, you can go to nps.gov/SEKI to keep up with that. I also want to bring Denise Alonzo. We call her our hiking buddy. She's taken us around the forest areas. She is the District Public Affairs Officer of Giant Sequoia National Monument and Sequoia National Forest. And for their website, go to ss.usda.gov/Sequoia. Denise, welcome back. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm thrilled to be back on the show. Thank you for inviting me.
Hey, it's cool. I have to say, I wish all three of us were out hiking together. This would make for a far better show.
Let's wait until May, though, because it's awful cold out there right now.
See, we have our heat going on in here. So
I know, and this is colder than last year.
Wow.
Yeah, here we actually just had snow down to where we hiked last year. We have about 3 inches of snow even at the lower elevation just above Springville. So it's really cold out there right now, but thankfully we did get some snow in the last few days.
Oh, that is awesome. That's awesome. And then you sent us some little cold snaps down here. So that's good. Thank you. But so the forest, is it typically open in May for people to go out, go hiking around?
Typically, we do open all of the dirt roads towards the end of May, just prior to Memorial Day weekend. Most everything opens up. Of course, it's weather dependent.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so everyone watch for that. And so is it also your website that people should keep watch for that too?
Yes, absolutely. We'll indicate on our website when things normally open up, but it may be a little earlier this year because of the continuing dry conditions, so expect that we might open in April this year.
Okay. So, there's a few positives, but we still want rain and moisture.
Absolutely, yes.
We need that. And so that's the thing. I know last year, I'm really glad you're on the show because I know last year you had fires out that way, and we were all very, very nervous and, worried for you and the land. And it is part of nature. It does happen, and there's always a reason. But I know a lot of people are wondering, is the forest going to be open this year? I mean, is it going to be the same kind of experience? What can they expect?
Yeah, we've always had and always will have fire in the ecosystem. That's just part of the Sierra Nevada. However, when we have drought years, like it looks like we're going to have this summer again, we are going to be at very high risk for wildfire again. And what that means is we may restrict campers' ability to have campfires, even inside campgrounds. If the conditions are dry enough and there's a potential for a campfire, say, to escape from somebody who perhaps built it too close to dry vegetation, we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So we will actually not allow campfires if the fire risk is too high.
Okay, that's good for everyone to know. And I wanted to circle back also to Cynthia. Is that the same for the park if you're out camping, or you want to, grill something in a picnic spot? Are there rules and regulations we should know before we do anything naughty?
Yes, and it's pretty similar to the Forest Service. Like she mentioned, it's going to be a very dry year. So typically our fire restrictions don't go into place until later in the summer, but this year we do expect it to be a lot sooner, probably, not too far from now. So fire restrictions, no fires. We just want to make sure, just want to keep everyone safe and have them have a good experience because, just a tiny little coal or something could just really light everything up on fire. And, we don't keep everyone safe.
Yeah, we want that. We want you guys. Yeah, we want everyone to have a good time hiking around and stargazing. There's just all these magical experiences to have, and in the sequoias. And like I said, once you go there, it steals your heart, and you just want to keep going back. But I want to ask you before we bring Gary on, Denise, where are you sitting right now? Are you able to see any trees? I mean, where's your office based out of?
I'm actually in Springville, which just is at the base of the foothills, and so I can look up the mountain and see snow from my office window, which is a beautiful view in the wintertime. And it's right at the base of the foothills, so it's only a short drive up to, 4,000-foot elevation where I can start to see the beautiful trees up the Tulare River Canyon.
Nice. Cool. You're in apple country, too. You get apple pie out there.
Yeah, I am. Springville. Yep.
Go get some apples. So that's the thing with the forest. So, we talk about Sequoia and Kings Canyon, and then the forest and the giant sequoia monument, they all kind of, merge together at some point. But this is more of the southern part where you are of the forest, right? So that's like if you're coming out of Springville or Porterville or even, pretty much those are the main two gateways, right, communities into the forest.
Yeah, to my area, we also have part of the forest down in Kernville and Kern County area. But when you go up through Porterville and Springville, you'll go into the southern portion of the Giant Sequoia National Monument, which is part of the Sequoia National Forest. If you go on the north part of the Giant Sequoia National Monument, you'll run into the Hume Lake Ranger District up Highway 180, and that's a route into Kings Canyon. Part of Kings Canyon is actually under the forest jurisdiction, but, the visitors don't necessarily need to know where they're crossing between the forest and the park because we all have opportunity for recreational activities.
Yeah.
Just there are a few differences. For instance, in the forest, you can take your dog on a trail, where in the park, you're restricted to keep your dog in the parking lot. So there is a few differences and differing opportunities. You might find an interpretive trail with signs and maybe even an interpretive park ranger there on staff in a park trail. However, in the forest, we don't have that type of personnel available, and we have signs in some areas, but it's more of a do-it-yourself opportunity in the forest where you might find interpreter in the park that can guide you along that trail.
I think it's a nice balance that you're all kind of, it's, having that, it's kind of like a nice buffer zone for animals too, like, wildlife.
Absolutely.
Having, the forest next to, the parks, I think is just a nice balance for everybody, for the environment as well as the people. I'm going to bring Gary Rogers on. He is the Communications Director of Sequoia Parks Conservancy, so taking care of Kings Canyon and Sequoia National Parks. I encourage you to go to their website. They have so many cool programs to get involved in. It is sequoiaparksconservancy.org. Welcome to the show, Gary. How are you?
Thank you, Lisa and Nancy. I'm doing really well and excited to be on the show.
Yeah, we are super happy to have you on the show because I think what you guys are doing is super cool. Really you work on the protection side, but you're also working in the education side. So it is for both parks, right? From what I was looking at on your website, that you have programs for both sides, but also you seem to be working on also helping with building trails and all kinds of things, and even bear boxes to protect people's food.
Yeah, that's correct. So we work with both parks, and we do a lot of education programs, but we're also one of our goals is fundraising to support programs within the parks, and that could be the bear program or trail restoration. Accessible trails is a big feature. We have some really amazing accessible trails in both parks, and as well as the Crystal Cave and other tours and custom tours and things you can do in the park.
Very cool. And so Crystal Cave, this is a neat experience, and it's a beautiful hike down to the cave. I remember waterfalls and lilies, those beautiful lilies, and then all of a sudden you're in this cave, and I feel like we're in like Sinbad the Sailor Land for some reason. I don't know, it just took me back there. It's just really magical, and I know that's a big highlight for visitors coming to the park. Can you tell everyone a little bit about that experience, and when is it open for people to experience it?
Sure, and the Crystal Cave is an amazing attraction at the park. It's a truly unique resource and one of a couple hundred of known caves within the park, but this one has been made to be fully accessible. And actually, we're developing some deaf and hard of hearing assisted tour things through a grant.
Oh, wow.
So we'll have that in place later this year. The cave is open from May 25th to September 30th, and it's a cool. very popular. You can buy tickets online through rec.gov, and if you search for Crystal Cave, you'll find some links there. And it is a very popular tour, so be sure to purchase tickets in advance and make sure you give yourself plenty of time to get there.
And also, aren't you working on a new education center for the cave?
Yeah, so there is an education center there. It's small and it's rather old. So one of our projects we have is to update that facility and make it a little larger to accommodate some more people, because we do I think we get 60,000 to 70,000 visitors to the cave a year.
Wow.
Depending on the opening season. And we're working on raising money to update that facility. so that we can offer more kind of educational, interpretive materials in that space.
Very cool, very cool. It's such a neat thing too, and I remember having to sterilize my shoes or something, so we didn't bring things in to hurt bats or something when we went in there. Is there going to be any exhibits on the bats and protecting them, do you think, once it's open?
there is the tour guides at the cave will talk to you about I believe it's white nose syndrome, which is it's a disease that it can be spread to the bats that live in the caves, and it comes from other caves. So that's one of the things you look for if you've visited a cave recently. They want you to really clean off shoes, and so that is a big an important part of the education of the cave, is letting people know.
That's something we're learning about, like in all parks these days, is to wipe your shoes off before you set foot at all. Even here in Saguaro National Park, we have to brush off our shoes before going on a trail so we don't bring in invasive species. So it's it's interesting to look at what we can do as visitors to be part of the conservation movement, just simply by one thing, cleaning your shoes.
Yeah, and it's nice to be made aware.
Yeah.
Because that's something relatively new, that in Saguaro at least.
You would be amazed at how much just outside material gets into the caves from the tours. And one of the things we have every year for our members is called Lint Camp, which it's kind of like an exclusive tour for members, and they come in and they restore and clean up all of the lint and garbage and just little bits of stuff from the outside world that makes its way into the cave, and it's amazing how much they pull out of the caves during that cleaning session.
Wow, how neat. I mean, it's cool to get it out. I mean, to keep things clean, and that's one of the things about don't take things home. And I know you can bring a pine cone out of the forest, but you can't in the park. If I got that right, Denise, before I get into trouble, and Cynthia's going to get mad at me if I get it wrong.
Yeah, you need to make sure that if you do pick up a pine cone or two, that's fine in the forest, but certainly not in the park.
Okay, and you're the one who showed us how small those cones are. Like for sequoia trees, like they're tiny. And you get the sugar pine, it's like this monster cone. And
a lot of people think those great big sugar pine cones that they see laying on the side of the road are giant sequoia cones. But yes, it's very deceiving. Those little teeny tiny things are actually the giant sequoia cones.
I actually put a photo of your hand holding the cones up on Instagram a few weeks ago. And and I was going through my photos of the sequoias, and I'm like, I really just need to come back and hug a tree, or try to, since they're so giant. But it was funny because I put you had 2 cones in the palm of your hand, or 2 or 3 of them up on Instagram, and people were like, "What? How are they so small?" You just wouldn't think that. It was amazing.
And actually, giant sequoias, the little cones, actually require some sort of instability, whether somebody steps on them or a bird picks it up and drops it. They require, or a fire, actually. Giant sequoias live in a fire-dependent ecosystem, so a fire is actually good for those little giant sequoia seedlings. The seeds depend on some sort of a disturbance to open up the cones and then pop out, and then they have a nice clear, debris-clear soil in order to grow and prosper. And actually where the fires were burning from a few years back up in the Hume Lake Ranger District, the Rough Fire, which burned in 2012, there is a bed of sequoia seedlings in that fire area beneath those giant sequoias, because now it's all opened up and there's just so many giant sequoia seedlings in there. It's tremendous.
That's exciting. I remember seeing some on the Trail of the 100 Giants, like little babies, and you were like, they're so little. And then you've got these giant ones, that just keep going up to the sky. How old do you think the sequoias get? Like when you're walking in a grove and they're way up there, we're amongst the wise old ones.
Those very, very big ones are 2,500 years old. So it's hard to imagine, and you wouldn't want to cut one down to count the tree rings to find out for sure how old it was, but they're estimated to be 2,500 years old. I don't know how many years old the Grant tree is, but whether or not that's the oldest sequoia out there, I guess nobody really knows for sure. It's just
I know
the largest.
There's so many names on different trees and everything, and I found out recently that the naming of trees is not going to happen anymore because of wanting to protect the trees a little bit more from foot traffic. But I want to go back to you, Cynthia, looking at the tree experience, which is something people, it's like that iconic bucket list thing to do is when you go to Kings Canyon and Sequoia. Denise mentioned the General Grant tree, and that's actually, isn't that the nation's Christmas tree, right? And that's in Kings Canyon, that grove of trees.
Yes, it's the nation's Christmas tree, and it's also the only living shrine in memory of the men and women of the armed forces. So it's doubly special.
Okay, so that's I know, and you go to, and there's like this, isn't the centennial tree there too? Am I right with that, as I recall, going up through the grove? Or, I don't know. I might have my...
You're stumping me.
I'm sorry, what did you say? Did I get it wrong? Or?
Oh, I said I'm stumped.
You're
the
stumped.
centennial tree.
I'm always stumped, I know, and that's what happens when you get up there. There's all these trees everywhere. There's Clara Barton trees, and then there's the General Sherman. The General Sherman's got to be one of the most visited trees, right, in Sequoia Park, Cynthia, for people.
Oh, definitely. It's definitely the highlight of our park. It's the largest tree by volume on Earth, so how special is it to have it in our own backyard here? So it's really... Everyone comes for the big tree. And when they start driving up the General's Highway and they start seeing the giant sequoias on the side of the road, people usually stop. Sometimes they just stop on the side of the road because they think, this is the tree. This is the tree that I came to see. And we really have to educate people and let them know, I swear there's a lot of giant sequoias in this park. Keep going. There will be signage leading you to the largest tree, and that's the tree that you want to go experience and see.
We learned that it's basically everybody's in awe because their jaws are all down. Everybody's walking around Sequoia National Park with their jaw down.
You feel like a little tiny person.
It's a good
feeling. You feel
feeling.
like you shrunk.
Yeah. It's amazing. And that's and also the General Sherman, that's in the giant forest, which is you really are walking amongst the giants up there.
I really want dinosaurs to come out.
I know.
From behind the tree.
Yeah. Crescent Meadow, I feel like that. Crescent Meadow is my favorite. Like, you guys have such amazing meadows. You think it's a favorite, and then you're like, oh, but now this is my favorite.
That's good for dinosaurs to eat.
Go munching.
Meadow, yeah.
We're going to go with the dinosaur theme today.
Yeah. When do the meadows start to get all lush and flowery? When does that happen, Cynthia, in Sequoia National Park in Kings Canyon?
Well, I think it depends on the weather that we get. But I would say springtime is a good. I don't know, Denise. Do you know if there's the best time to go?
It all depends on the weather. You're right.
Okay. So spring and just keep going up there.
And the bears?
When do the bears come out and play?
Well, also in the spring. And I don't know if the warmer weather this year, if we don't get any more snow, if they'll come out of hibernation sooner this year. But we definitely did see a lot more cubs, little baby cubs last year in the spring and summer months. We definitely got a lot more reports of viewings near waterfalls in different areas of the park.
Cool. Oh, you said waterfalls. That's the thing. I remember Tokapaw Falls, hiking that. That was beautiful, and there's marmots all over there, too.
They're very
friendly. I think going on a hike and seeing waterfalls along the way or at the end is just a really rewarding experience.
Yeah.
Like you said, going down to Crystal Cave, I didn't expect to, go see a waterfall on my way down this, hike from the parking lot. Like, I just didn't expect to see a waterfall down there. So it's, having all these little waterfalls everywhere is really fun.
You know what's so interesting about that area? And Gary, this is true, right? You're kind of going you're like at the edge of the giant forest, and you're in the big sequoia trees, and all of a sudden you're kind of going down into more of like an oak kind of, like oak scrubland kind of deal. Is that kind of, it changes there, doesn't it?
Yeah, it might be on the edge of kind of a zone like that. It's interesting. The park, the cave was discovered by a couple of park employees who were kind of fishing and hiking around, and they felt a breeze hitting them in the back, and they climbed up the hill to investigate and stumbled upon this, amazing cave system. And that was, I don't have the exact date. That was quite a while ago. I think the 20s or so, maybe.
Wow. Wow.
And then a dinosaur came out.
See, Nancy's back to the dinosaurs. That's it. So I know that you do a lot of different walks, and you can learn about history and nature. You have these adventures through the Sequoia Parks Conservancy, Gary. Do you do anything for dinosaurs so Nancy can go on a dinosaur trek?
No, I mean, there are no known dinosaurs in the park at this moment, but right now we do have snowshoe walks on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. On full moons, we have a full moon snowshoe, and this is at both Grant Grove and at Giant Forest. And I just got news from our people up at Lodgepole, and they said they got about 6 inches of snow last night, and looks like a lot of our snowshoes have actually just been boots walking through some thin snow, but I think we might actually have enough to do some snowshoeing.
That's cool.
For this moment. And those run into March. We have a few weeks off in March, and then as long as the snow provides. And we have a calendar of all of our events on our website if you want to go and check out that, and under the Field Institute. And we're kind of finishing up our winter programs, and then come spring, we'll have all sorts of we're looking at daily trips for hiking through the Giant Forest and through the Grant Grove areas. And also this year we're offering some longer trips too, possibly. So we're kind of developing these guided tours by an interpreter that will take you out for a backpacking trip and kind of show you the ropes and things like that. So.
Ooh, that's
nice.
Neat, because I think so many of us want to go do that, out in the backcountry in the wilderness area, and Kings Canyon has that magical wilderness area, and we don't quite know what to pack or what should we do.
Yes, and
what
to do when you see a bear. Exactly.
You run. No.
Yeah.
No, you don't. So there's all
don't
those
run.
questions. I know. Don't run. Okay, we better cover this. Gary, what do we do if we see a bear, or if we walk right up to it, hello bear, mama bear and babies?
If you prepared right, you have a bear whistle, which has kind of a high-pitched noise that bears generally do not like and will run away from. But yeah, don't run, and you're supposed to make some noise and shake your arms and kind of yell at it. And generally, I believe they're kind of skittish and then not really interested in confrontation. So, and some people, you'll hear people backpacking with jingle bells kind of on their backpack, so they're making a little noise while they're walking, so they don't surprise a bear. That's one thing you don't want to do. And so I see people with bells and stuff on their backpacks sometimes, and just try not to surprise them, and generally they will keep their distance on their own.
Okay. Yeah.
That's pretty true of most wildlife.
Yeah. Don't go here,
really,
kitty.
They really don't want to mess with people. They just really want to go the other way if they have a clear path to do so.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. Animals want to just. And do any of your programs teach people about the wildlife and the flowers and things like that, Gary, when people go out?
Yeah, absolutely. Our naturalist guided tours, they're pretty well informed about anything you want to know. If you want to know what's living under that rock, they can tell you, and what this tree is and how it relates to the ecosystem, and what type of animals are common to this area, and maybe even find some tracks depending on what you're looking for.
And the other thing I want to bring up is, we always think about parks and go hiking, and I know climb Morrow Rock, that's a big deal to do in Sequoia National Park too. There's all of that. We always think about that. But the one thing is that our national parks and our forests provide a whole other landscape at night, and it's stargazing is a huge deal, especially if you live in the city. If the chance of really seeing a sky totally star-studded, unless you're in LA and you're looking at the ground, you're at the walk of, the Hall of Fame or whatever it is, the stars, whatever that's called. I don't know. I'm better out in nature, but it's really hard to see, all the beautiful stars up in the skies and the Milky Way. And one way to do it is to go on a night hike. I don't know if you do it in the park, in the forest, or to go camping. But before we get into that, Gary, you have that huge Dark Sky Festival that happens every year. When does that come up?
We do. This year's Dark Sky Festival is September 7th through the 9th. And last year we had record attendance. I think over 3,000 or up to 4,000 people participated.
Wow.
And we have star parties and solar viewing. We have special speakers come in, the NASA astronauts, activities for kids, and we have things spread out all over both parks and also at the lake, who are partners with Lake Cahuilla as well. Foothills.
Oh, Lake Cahuilla is cool. Yeah. So what about in the forest now, Denise? Camping. When does that open, and what do people do? Because that's a way to see the skies and the night stars, and really get out there is to go camping. That's the ultimate for a park experience. Or a
Certainly
experience.
one. Yeah. Camping experience in general. Yeah, you get out there in the dark, away from the street lights and away from the the communities of which all that artificial light out there, and you can see the stars. You just got to get up in the mountains a little bit, and whether you're camping or out late in the evenings, it is a gorgeous view. Typically, the campground's open just prior to Memorial Day weekend. Like I said earlier, because of the drought this year, they may open a little earlier, but our campground concessionaire doesn't usually start up the water systems until there's no longer a threat of it freezing, because they certainly don't want any broken pipes in the campground. So I would expect it to open up again in time for Memorial Day weekend, and you can make a reservation. Let me give you the reservation number. It's 1-877-444-6777. And it's recreation.gov is the website for campground reservations.
Now, don't you have cabins out there too, or some kind of is it for when you're backpacking that you have little, I always think of the Appalachian Trail where people have those little Ramada hut things that you get to, bunk up with other people or something.
We actually have yurts in some of our campgrounds, and that's something new since you were here visiting with me before.
I want to hear the experience.
Yes, we have some of those in the campgrounds, and those are also available on that same website or by calling that same number.
Cool. Oh man, I want to go yurting in the forest. That is awesome. That is awesome. So Cynthia, up in the park, I know that you've got Wasatch Lodge, right? And so you've got some other lodges up there that people can go to, and some cabins. But camping, I remember you got a beautiful campground. We've got water out there and everything where people can go splash around. And when do those open up? Or are they open year-round?
We have some here in the foothills that are open year-round. Potwisha is open all year, but then reservations go into place starting in May. Pretty similar to the forest, a lot of our campgrounds open around May 23rd, and then they start closing back down in September. But again, reservation number is the same that Denise mentioned, same website, rec.gov. You can go on there and look for our campgrounds, over 1,200 campsites in our parks. So they can accommodate anywhere from 1 to 50 people, depending on the site. Yeah.
And the one thing I wanted to touch on, I know that there's been some changes in getting our pass. And I know that, you could get the year-round pass. And Cynthia, that also covers the forest, right? And some of our, BLM lands and things like that if you get the annual pass?
Yeah, so there's a park-specific pass that covers both of our parks, which is $50. And then there's a pass for $80 that covers all national, I think it's all public lands.
Yeah.
So that's $80. And that you can go from park to park and use that. It is so
well worth
deal.
It is,
That's
I know there was some rate changes, but I'm serious. It is, I mean, you go out with your family for dinner, you're going to spend $80, and that's one night, whereas this is a year-round of just wonders, natural and historical.
I know. It's really inexpensive.
Yeah, and then you don't have to think about anything. But buy them in the park, because doesn't that help you with funding locally? Like if people buy them in the park, Cynthia, when they come in?
Definitely.
That it helps
and just to clarify,
budget.
our rates have not changed. Yes, there was from Washington a call for public comment on the rates changing, but nothing has been said since. So
okay,
we have
good.
not been directed to increase our prices. So it's still $30 for the for 5 days to come into the park per vehicle. That has not changed. But if you're paying $30 for that one time that you're coming, why not pay the $50 for our park for the year? Or $80 to go to any park for the year. So definitely purchase them when you get into the park. That way, a portion of that price stays here in the park as part of our recreation fees that we get to collect and then also put back into the park.
Right on. And that's what, Gary, you're giving thumbs up to that, right? That's like
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the year-round pass is great, and one thing I love to tell people is come up to the foothills in the wintertime because it's one of the nicest times to be in the foothills. The weather's usually really nice and it's warm. You get up above the clouds of the valley, and also it's if like my wife not into bugs really. There's not a lot of bugs in the wintertime, and it's a great time. You can hike around, and it's quiet time too. There's not a lot of visitors, and it's a great way to spend an afternoon.
We've had magical times in winter in parks, like Yosemite, Kings Canyon, Sequoia, and there's this peace. It's just so peaceful, and it's just so nice. I always try to get people to go midweek in parks, especially in the summer when I know that especially Sequoia in the forest. Try if you can go midweek to have that little balance. It's good for the parks and forests. It's good just for that extra bit of peace and quiet. If you can go midweek.
There are a lot of people who could go midweek that somehow they're still in that habit of going on the weekends and in the summer. And they just really forget that they can go midweek and go in different seasons and see the park from a different aspect.
It's fall is neat too.
Fall's
I was going to say, Cynthia, don't you have the shuttle that comes up in like is it May that the shuttle starts to bring in like people from Visalia and Exeter that don't want to drive up into the park, and it helps kind of with the environment.
That's right. No, it starts up on Memorial Day weekend, and it goes through this year. We are extending it. It's Labor Day, but we're extending it one extra week to cover the Dark Sky Festival so that people can come up for the weekend and take the shuttle. It's $15 per person if you take the shuttle from Visalia or any of the other stops on the way up to the park for the day. I definitely recommend it. Parking is very limited in the parks, and this year we got 2017 saw record visitations here in the park. We had over 2 million visitors in 2017, which was a record. And so you can only imagine how frustrating it is to go through the park on a weekend in the summer and not find any parking or anywhere to pull over to use the restroom. So just definitely help with your experience. You won't have that frustration. There's a whole shuttle system within the park that takes you to all of the key sites that you want to come visit, like the General Sherman Tree, Moore Rock. All of our key sites are accessible by shuttle, so take advantage of that, and you don't have to keep driving around the park, roving the parking lots for a parking space.
And if you're not good at mountain passes, it's a good idea too. I'm just saying, when you go up there, you don't have to white knuckle it up. And I think it's a really important thing because just in regards to pollution, how many bringing our cars, all of us bringing cars up. It's just a step towards maintaining that ecological balance, as much as we can do on foot as well. Let's talk about trails. We're big advocates to get people to get out and take at least a 1-hour walk once a week at minimum, even if it's their neighborhood, their parks. And we really want people to understand that the parks and the forests, most public lands do have a place where it's an easier kind of trail, maybe a paved trail, an accessible trail, whether you're a mom with a baby in a stroller or if you're in a walker or a wheelchair. A lot of times there are actually these pathways, and it's something that I think sometimes gets kind of overlooked, and sometimes people don't go to parks because they may have to think that they have to be a top-notch athlete, which I am not. But I found many, many trails. So I'm going to ask each of you, what is your favorite trail? If you're going to take a 1-hour walk with anyone in the world, alive or passed on, so you could just sit and have a good conversation, who would you go for that walk with, and where would you go? So let's start with you, Denise, in the forest. Where are you going to take a 1-hour walk, and who are you going to go with?
I'm most certainly going to take my family of all ages, from 90 down to 2, to Trail of 100 Giants. on the Western Divide Ranger District. Just up the hill from Porterville, about an hour and a half drive, is a fully accessible trail. It's about 1.3 miles long, so you can easily do that in 1 hour. And very neat to see along that trail is a couple of giant sequoias that had grown together fell on the trail in 2011. And since then, they have constructed a boardwalk along the giant sequoias that fell. And so they're laying on the side, and you can walk across the boardwalk perpendicular to or parallel to these trees that are laying on the ground. So it's a sight that you don't normally get to see when you're walking through a grove of giant sequoia trees. And these trees are huge. I mean, they're 17 feet in diameter, so they're huge. And it's very impressive. So that would be the place that I would suggest. And it only costs $5 to park. And so there's no entry fee, $5 to park. And so it's a great day for an hour's walk in the woods.
And there's a campground near there, too. You can go
camping.
There is,
right across the street, Redwood Meadow Campground.
See, that's the ultimate thing. You're going to take a 1 hour walk, have breakfast, and then do it again.
Yep.
So cool. So cool. Cynthia, where are you taking a 1 hour walk, and who are you going to go with?
I am going to take my girlfriends because we love girls' weekends, and we are going to – do I get one per park since I have 2 parks?
Sure. Why not? I'm never going to say no to a park ranger. That's just the law.
Well, in Kings Canyon, I love Zumwalt Meadow. It was one of the first hikes that I did in the park, and it's one of those lush green areas where you get to see water, you see green trees, and then you also see granite cliff faces. So the variation on that 1.5 mile loop just is amazing to me. So that was my Kings Canyon one. I think in the giant over here on Sequoia side, definitely the giant forest trail system. It has a lot of easy, more flat hikes to do. And, I mean, you can choose a 1 mile loop to like a 7 mile. You can definitely customize your experience there. And I feel like that's just a really easy place to go and walk as much or little as you want and still get that great experience of those giant sequoias. So it's just a magical walk.
And you do the Big Trees Trail. You go around the round meadow because it's round. You go around it, and it's so cool because there's water. There's all these little birds eating things, and we've seen bear and deer out there, and it's
so much fun.
Accessible for people. I mean, there's a disabled parking lot, and it's really an easy walk. And I just wanted to mention, if people go to nationalparktraveling.com, we've done a page for each trail that we're talking about. Big Trees Trail. We have a jigsaw puzzle with them and a video of these trails, a 1 hour walk video of the Big Trees Trail in the Giant Forest. We have one of Zumwalt Trail, and we've also got one of the Trail of 100 Giants, so you can check those out so people can watch them. And we didn't give you enough to, not do the hike. You have to go do the hike to see it all.
It's a teaser.
Absolutely. I love the Girls' Weekend Out, too. I think that is such a cool idea. We always think about Girls' Weekend Out. It's like, oh, you're going out with champagne brunches and la-di-da. It's so good to get out into nature. That's the best place to do any kind of gossiping. Just saying.
That's
get
right. No Wi-Fi, just straight gossiping in person and not being recorded.
Exactly. No phones. No phones allowed.
No phones that. And no one to hear you say whatever you need to say.
The trees will remember, though. They will remember everything you said. I know they will. Gary, who are you taking a walk with and where?
Well, I'm going to definitely take my wife and kids, and also any friends of mine living in northern California or out of the country who might be traveling California. I always tell them, hey, take the detour to come up. You won't regret it. And one of my favorite places, and you mentioned it earlier, is Tokopah Falls, which is really easy to get to. You just go up to Lodgepole and hike out the back of the campgrounds, and you'll hit it. And it's a little longer than an hour, but I like it because it's a nice, it's a mellow climb. You got a great view of the watchtower. These big giant cliffs, and there's a couple areas where you can walk down to the river if you want to kind of poke around the river as well. And then, of course, there's nothing like the big payoff at the end with the big waterfall. And I was just up there last weekend, and the waterfall was frozen and the rocks are all white. Man, it's really, really beautiful, and it's really a fun time.
That is super cool. That's super cool. Yeah, I love that. It wasn't frozen when we were there, and it was just so. I remember it getting warm. It was like the end of March, I think we did this the trail and hang out with marmots, and this little kid started yelling at Nancy, "You're not supposed to be near the marmots." And the marmot came to check out Nancy, but you're not supposed to get close to the animals.
They just walked right up.
Oh, it is Marmot Central up there at the end by the waterfall. It's amazing.
They're not really, they don't care about people.
And I know. And if you want a wake up call,
your belongings.
Yeah, they are neat. But if anybody wants a wake up call and you've been hiking and you think it's warm, go take your shoes off and put your feet in the river and see how warm that water is, because it isn't warm at all. That water is cold, man. That was a big shock. That was like, if you're not awake, that will wake you up.
You definitely don't want to swim in it.
That is cold. That water is cold.
We want to keep people
cold.
away from the water.
Oh, oopsie. Okay, everybody, away. Away, do not do it. Do not do it. Be careful. Yeah, because you don't know what the current's out there. You never know. So be careful of that. I want to thank you all for joining us. It's been super informative and exciting. We want to get out there and go hiking. I can smell the forest, literally, talking to the three of you. I feel like I'm there. Everyone, again, if you go to discoverthesequoias.com, that will link you through to the forest. It will link you through to the parks and to the different gateway communities, and that's definitely something to do when you go hiking around. You're going to work up an appetite. Go downtown and go have some good food. There's breweries opening up everywhere, apparently, so there's a lot going on in those towns, too. Also, Cynthia, again, I want to give your website. It's nps.gov/SEKI for Sequoia and Kings Canyon. And then for Denise over at the forest, go to ss.usda.gov/Sequoia. What's the camping one again, Denise, for both the parks and the forest?
Recreation.gov.
Oh, recreation.gov, everybody. Easy to remember. Go get your yurts and your campgrounds. And then also for the Sequoia Parks Conservancy, great calendar of events and ways to pitch in, right? And Gary, you don't mind if people call you and say we want to donate money towards a different project, right? That's something you're looking for too?
Absolutely. You can donate to a number of different projects directly or for best use through our website as well.
Okay, everyone. So sequoiaparksconservancy.org. Thank you all for joining us, and we're going to play a song called Wind Through the Leaves because you're in the forest. So we thought we'd have to play a forest song for you. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Happy hiking. We'll see you when we get back up there. All right.
You bet. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Everyone, again, here is Wind Through the Leaves. It's from May Edwards. She did a 4-CD compilation called Starlet and Saint, and this song is called Wind Through the Leaves, and it's off of the 4th album called Grace. So enjoy that, and then we're going to Washington.